Welcome back to another episode of Poppin Bottles, the wine show for anyone and everyone who loves wine, filmed right here in Edmonds at the Fox and Bottle. And today we have an exceptionally awesome show for you. Brandon, what is the first wine that we are popping today?
Well, cheers, Barry. What we have today is a French rosé. So a lot of times when we think of rosés, at least in my mind when it comes to France, I go right to Provence. I go that southern, eastern side of France. Provence gives you these beautifully light, elegant, light strawberry, underripe raspberry, like those types of vibes, super chuggable rosés. For this one, I wanted to get a little more structure behind it. So we're not out of the woods yet. I know when we were filming last, we were popping for spring, but it was like 42 degrees that we said. At least today, it's like 55. Like, it's feeling more like spring.
It absolutely is.
But we're still on the cusp. And so I wanted to get a little more backbone here. And so in the Loire Valley, 100% Pinot Noir, La Petite Perrier is the producer. So 100% Pinot Noir grape for this rosé. Again, like a rosé should be, it's classically clean, beautiful coloring. It's got the hints of that, like, ripe strawberry, citrus notes. It's got a little lime when it comes to the palate. Like, it's a fun one, but it's also one where you're like, oh, I can drink this with food. Like, this isn't my porch pounder, but this is like my elegant, and it's beautiful in the bottle. It's beautiful in the glass. And it's also, I mean, this bottle is really pretty, you know, kind of that classic, script on the label there. But let's get our nose in this thing and let's see what's going.
Yes. Yes, please.
Oh my God. This to me just, and this, for everyone to, you know, while we're nerding out here on this, this is on our glass pour list right now. It's going to be hopefully for a while, but it's going super fast. I have like the last bottles around of this stuff. So get it while you can.
Oh my God. It smells amazing. Wow.
Man.
That is good.
What do you get? What are you feeling?
Well, I mean, I think with rosés, it's interesting because I feel like for me, this is the time of the year when I start to want to get back into rosés. Yeah, totally. I do take a break from them.
Yep.
And now that it's rosé season, I think officially here in Edmonds, I mean, we are getting some actual sunshine. This is so delicious. For me, this is much more than what I would expect maybe from a rosé.
Yeah.
I think that rosés sometimes, some Washington rosés can sometimes be a little oversimplified.
Yep.
And what I'm getting from this is some layers and some lushness.
Yeah. Yeah. I get when I go through the nose to the palate, front palate, mid and back palate, it kind of takes you on a journey with you, you know, alongside you, I should say. And where it starts clean, crisp, and light, it kind of races up on you and holds on that back palate. And this is where it's like, this could hold with some food.
Yeah, it has like a really pleasant mid-palate flavor for me too. That is kind of surprising a little bit. That it's that feeling I want to get from a glass of wine that kind of gives me the yum vibe, you know, where it's like, ooh, this is interesting and yummy mid-palate. And then you're right, it does have a nice finish on the back end.
Yeah, and some rosés, you know, particularly in the States, and then even sometimes down in Provence, you start to get this like melon, this cantaloupe thing going on, which is kind of a polarizing thing for folks. I tend to not enjoy that as much. Some folks love that kind of that melony vibe. And this to me, it almost starts to creep there and then just cleans off and keeps that as the structure. So I think about like the way cantaloupe feels in your mouth. That's what you start to get with this.
Yeah, I was going to say the mouthfeel gives me a little bit of that melony, creamy fullness, smoothness.
Yeah.
But totally to your point, without tripping over into that melon flavor, which I'm also not a huge fan of. Like, it's not really one of my favorite fruits, and I don't love to drink it.
No, totally. And I think when I want to drink a rosé, I want it bright. I want acid. You know, you still want balance, this is extremely well balanced. Some Provence rosés, even though they tend to be my favorite, they tend to be my go-to for sure. But they can be a little wispy, right? They can be like, okay, there was something there, but I'm waiting for it again. This is just so enjoyable. And rosés are a really funny beast. They're really hard. Like, to make a good rosé, I mean, it's tough. And I think there's some really, really cool techniques that are out there. And I think that could be a totally another episode to like what it takes to make rosé, the patience there is, the different styles, and all sorts of stuff. We'll get into that some other day. But when you taste it, you can taste the quality pretty quickly. And I think the other thing is that rosés are made all over, right? Where you get it from Provence region, Southwest France, Bordeaux, Loire Valley, which is in our glass. It's a fun exploration, and really, it's a fun representation of the area.
Yeah. When it comes to rosés, what would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have around rosé? Because it can be one of those things where it can be a little polarizing, and I think we did see a resurgence or an explosion maybe in rosé popularity a couple of years ago, where we really started to see people get into it more and have a kind of a broader acceptance of it, and people really starting to love it. Partially driven maybe by frosés, I think also helped contribute to that, because a good frosé is quite delicious.
A little bit of the COVID takeaway drink and a frosé.
Yeah, exactly. I do think it was kind of COVID takeaway, like frosé explosion, that also really moved the needle a little bit for some people on just rosé in general.
No, I think you're spot on. So let me think if I can distill this down. So there's a couple little misconceptions that happen. I think first and foremost, the color drives the sweetness. That's not true at all. You can have these big, bold, beautifully dark, almost red rosés, but they're not sweet. That's not what the indicator. But I think that is a misconception people see. Some of the super light rosés are going to be your driest, and your dark ones are going to be sweet. I've had that conversation more times than I know of here in the shop. I think that's a big misconception we got to kind of throw out the door. And then that rosés are just sweeter in general. Again, not the truth at all. Rosé, when done well, and especially the ones we're bringing into the shop here, is that crisp, dry, acid-driven, beautifully floral, aromatic with great fruit. That's what rosé is.
Yeah. I think that rosé still, it took a while for it to recover maybe from the Franzia era, like the boxed pink wines. That's where I think
your grandma's white Zin or whatever it was.
Your grandma's white Zinfandel. I can still remember that Franzia box of white Zin. And I think that kind of smear rosés for a long time for people, where they have this anticipation, this thought that it's going to be sweet, or that it's going to be like overly floral maybe, or just, not a quality wine or not an interesting wine. And that I do think is a big mistake. So if you're out there and you haven't jumped into the rosé territory, I think you should jump in. And this is really an exceptional way to start, because this is something that, I can't get over the smell of it. It smells so good.
But the aromatics on this are crazy cool. I think another piece to it as well is that rosés can provide you really good value. Don't think because it's a sub $20 bottle or sub $25 bottle that it's lesser quality. They're just in that price point. That is just something where you're not going to go grab a $55, $60 rosé. And quite frankly, if you see one, I'd question the bottle and what you're looking at.
You're totally right. I have not seen like a high end over $30, $35, maybe max, like a $30, $35 kind of cap on them.
Yeah, so take advantage. If you see a $14, $15 rosé, and hopefully you're learning a little bit through these podcasts or just come into the shop and start talking to us, if you see good value, good priced wine, don't be afraid of it. There's great, especially old world stuff.
I was going to say, especially the stuff like these French rosés. Like for the price point, it's just like incredibly delicious.
Absolutely.
Which is why sometimes it's just like I do this with bubbles too. I think with even if it's like a Cremant and it's a cheaper Cremant, but it's a French Cremant, that is almost always going to be better than an equivalently priced domestic producer. That's just like, it's like the French, they know their bubbles and they absolutely know their rosés.
100%.
Okay. When you mentioned sweet and dry, and so let's talk a little bit about that for some of our friends out there who, get a little confused with that or aren't quite certain really what we're talking about when we're talking about sweet and dry, because that does trip people up sometimes. It's like a dry wine. Well, what is a dry wine? It's like made of liquid.
How's liquid dry?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Really, really good question. So let me even take it a step back. And so when I hear the term sweet, it can mean really one of two things. And what they tend to be thinking about is what we'd call in the glass residual sugar, the actual sweetness that's in the wine. There's actually an extra sweet flavor in there, and that's just because not all the sugar was eaten up to create the alcohol, and that can either be on purpose or not, however the producer's doing it. So that's actually sweetness. Now there's something else that can kind of make your palate and your brain think something feels sweet, and what that is just that beautifully huge amount of fruit. So when I think of sweet, I'm thinking that technical residual sugar sweet that's truly in the glass versus there can be a wine that is uber like fruit forward. You're getting like legit strawberry in your mouth, raspberry in your mouth. But the wine itself, by technical standards, looking at the RS or like the levels, it's dry. And dry means that it's finishing really clean. It really has this like smooth and velvetyness that comes back, but you're not tasting that sugar sweet, that like literal sucrose sugarness going on. And so a dry wine just means that it's not having that additional residual sugar left in the bottle.
And so that's disconnected or separate from, say, an astringency maybe, or that experience with, say, red wines where it can kind of almost feel like it's drying your mouth out or puckering your mouth.
Exactly. So that sensation is coming from not the term dry, but coming from the tannic qualities in the wine. And so when, as just Barry's saying, that feeling of like my mouth is literally drying out, that's the high tannins in the wine, and that's created from 3 different areas. You can get it from the grape itself, the stems, the skins, the sticks, all that stuff that's coming with the grapes, or you can get it from the barrel. And so all 3 of those pieces have tannins in it, and the different levels of tannins, the different way in which it stays with the grape or off the grape will create that level of drying. That's the literal dryingness of the mouth. So we have a dry wine, which just means that it doesn't have residual sugar or very, very little, and feels very clean, crisp, good balance acid-wise, and fruit, versus the drying effect of wine, which is more often than not just that tannin level in the mouth.
Awesome. I think it's just good sometimes to revisit some of these basic concepts because it can be a little bit confusing or seem more, and again, that was an incredible explanation in a non-technical way that I think is super, super clear and helpful.
Thanks. I was like, I hope this makes sense.
So, absolutely made sense. And I love that it was not overly technical and we didn't get lost in a chemistry lesson there. Cool. Thank you. This is phenomenal. So on the glass pour, we have some bottles left, but we'll see how long into the sunny, beautiful semi-summer season it's going to last here as we get into spring and rosés become more popular. And on today's episode, a lot of times we like to go French stuff and then we'll take a journey and a trip to Washington and we like to do a little bit of compare and contrast. But today I think we're going to stay completely centered around French wines because they are in many ways, right, the inspiration for many of our favorite Washington wines. Absolutely. And it's the OG, right, producer in my mind when I think about who in the world does the best, some of the best wine. Of course, I'm going to always think about the French.
Yep.
And there's so many wines to love. And so in segment 2, we're going to take a little bit of a journey away from rosé. And are we moving from the Loire? We're
going to move out of the Loire. We're going to go to Bordeaux. And we're going to go to my favorite place in Bordeaux.
Ooh, I can't wait. Well, we will see you on the next segment. Friends, welcome back. In this second segment, we are going to go into this wonderful, look at that color on this thing. It is beautiful Bordeaux. What, Brandon, pray tell, are we popping?
So this, like I had mentioned, is my favorite region in Bordeaux. Can't say it's my favorite region in the world or in France, but it's my favorite region in Bordeaux. This is where, from that journey I took from Chinon, Loire Valley, Cab Franc early, when I had the first chance to get out into France and start doing wine research, study, this was one of the first places I dropped. This is Saint-Emilion in Bordeaux, right bank. So Bordeaux has 2 sides. There's a left bank and a right bank. And we hear that term all the time. Left bank, easy way to remember, left bank, predominantly Cab, right bank, predominantly Merlot. And all that means is that if you're on the right bank, so Saint-Emilion, where this is going to be from, it's going to typically be 80+% Merlot. On the left bank, Chateau, where you have Margaux, Chateau Margaux, Lafite Rothschild, Haute Médoc, all the big names, everyone that you're going to go spend $150 to $250 a bottle, that's Cab Sauv. Mm-hmm. So that's where you're going to get your bigger wines. This one is this incredible, about 80% Merlot, 85% Merlot, 15% Cabernet Franc.
Okay.
So we're going to have a little lift, a little pyrazine, which is that green bell pepper. But you're going to, right off the nose, Bear, I bet you're going to see this like cherry, dark cherry, almost like chocolate-covered cherry. The very quintessential Saint-Emilion style Merlot, where you can have a $400 bottle in Pomerol or a $30 bottle from Saint-Emilion, And for me, I think I know wine decently well, and I'm still going like, I'm good either way.
Yeah. Let's get into it because it does have that cherry. Yeah, cherry, chocolate cherry.
Silky tannins. Silky tannins just means I feel them. They're prickly, almost a little like gritty sandpaper, but they're not sticking to your teeth. They're not making you feel like you have a wool blanket. It's just nice, smooth texture on the palate. So there's a flavor in here that always cracks me up. So learning about it, you start to understand what the flavor is. And yet no one here in the States that I know of has ever had this flavor. And it's a black currant. They've been outlawed in the States since like the 70s or 60s, 70s, 80s, something like that. And yet it's always in tasting notes.
I was going to say, I feel like you saying that is very surprising to me because I've seen black currant written, to your point, on tasting notes and places. But now that you say it, I just was thinking, have I ever had a black currant? Like,
yeah.
I don't think I have.
It's not a nuisance, but it's one of those plants that takes everything over. And so they outlawed them, but yeah, it still has that flavor. Like cassis, I think is the other like flavor profile that they make out of currants. But anyway, it's just funny. So this has that cherry, dark cherry, currant, black currant, almost like jelly jam, vibe going on. But this is classic Saint-Emilion, wine here.
I love it.
And if you think you don't like Merlot, just jump outside of the United States. Go to northern Italy, go to France, go to Slovenia, Croatia, and you're going to have some incredibly, incredibly dynamic Merlots. I think Sideways did an amazing job making a funny joke that all of a sudden blew up Merlot sales for 10, 15 years.
I think it crushed. Like, it was, the numbers were spectacular.
Yeah.
In terms of the amount of damage it did to Merlot.
Oh my God.
Which I believe up until that point, I believe it was the most popular red wine in the States was Merlot.
Yeah. So cabs were super expensive in California. Merlot was its more affordable kind of counterpart. And it's dynamic. It's phenomenal.
I do love Merlots, and I always have loved Merlots. And what's funny about Sideways is like, I'm not a giant Pinot guy. Like that's always what cracked me up.
Yeah.
And I feel like it just became like the trendy thing to love Pinots. And the problem with Pinots for me is that the ones that I love are always kind of expensive. When I really love them. And we'll save that tirade and rant and that whole journey for a Pinot oriented show because I think we can go deep on Pinots. There's a lot of interesting stuff on them.
We can do a Burgundy Willamette face off or something.
I would. We are. That's going to happen because there are some incredible Pinots, both here in Oregon, but and also, of course, in France. And it was interesting. In one of the trips we were over there, it was basically all we drank was Pinots for just from like the region where we were, a big chunk of it, and that's where I did
just over in France.
Yeah, and that's where I started to realize, oh no, I like Pinots. I just the style, and that's I think with Merlot where people don't realize how first of all, it can be absolutely delicious, and to your point, dynamic and show up in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is technically accurate. So a winemaker, if you hear this or anything, let me know. But to me, I feel like Merlot can be dominated really quickly, whether that's through production or barrel. And so you're getting this flatlined version of Merlot easier. I feel like Cab can handle the barrel easier. It can handle some of the more nuanced production methods because it's a bigger, bolder grape. Where Merlot, if it's manipulated too much, or if it's like a bar of soap, if it's touched too many times, it just shrinks and it's no longer itself, right? So I always feel like if I taste Merlot and it tastes just kind of like a juice jam bomb that's just kind of flat and one dimensional, or almost even starts to have a little of that caramely sugarness. That's someone trying to mess with it a little bit to bring it back to life.
California, we're looking at you.
He said it, not me. And so it's one of those things where when you taste a Merlot like this from a producer, high quality producer, and I mean I'm talking high quality producer out of Saint-Emilion for $26. So this isn't again where you're looking like, okay, I feel like you guys drink really good wine, but I don't want to go spend $60 on a bottle. Guys, this is where I'm saying French wine, and we have some really cool Washington producers as well that fall not maybe quite to that level, but fall in this range of affordable, approachable wine. and done really well. So this vineyard, again, let me show you this. I don't think I got the bottle in here. So we have here fully sustainable Chateau Bertin. It's just one of those. And this is young. It's 2023, and it's drinking amazing.
It really. Oh, this is 23.
It's young.
Yeah.
A lot of our Bordeaux that we bring in are 2014, 16, 19, 18. But this was just ready. It was just drinking well.
Yeah, this is phenomenal. And you mentioned, is it so sustainable, same or different than biodynamic?
Different. Okay, so there's some terms that get thrown around. Natural, kind of the blanket, natural. What the hell does that mean? I couldn't tell you. Right? But it's a great term. At least it gets us started down the path of like, what are we looking for? So then we look at, from our perspective, it's not about the term natural. For me, it's about how are the vineyards being farmed, and they're sustainably farmed, meaning no pesticides, no additive chemicals to the vineyards, to the soil. Hopefully, if they have the means, hand harvested. So we're getting machinery out of the vineyards. It's not always perfect, but the farming techniques are sustainable as possible. Then we start hearing these terms biodynamic or organic. Okay, so those are also different. That just means there's, without getting too far into the technicals here, what you're really looking at from organic is the sense of, again, not adding things to the vineyard, not adding things to the wine, not adding copper as a stabilizer, not adding additional sulfates into the wine to create a flavor. You just let it go. Biodynamic is the outlier to this. So biodynamic is organic, but it follows a literal moon calendar. So you're using the stars and astrology as your guide. There's a whole practice of putting manure in a horn and burying it and all sorts of fun stuff. But to be biodynamically certified, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it.
Yeah, it's kind of sounding like pagan-y, kind of witchy.
There's
like
a sacrifice that happens.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just crazy. But that tends to be driven by moon cycles and astrology when they prune, how much they yield. There's a whole kind of methodology there. But all that really comes down to is keep your hands off the vines and the wine production as much as possible. I like to just think of it as low to no intervention.
Yeah, I was going to say minimal intervention is
intervention.
Maybe the catch-all term that we were looking at there, and one of the things that we would like. We would want to see that in our wine producers.
Yep. And I think what really attracted me to Old World wine. So Old World's going to give you, French, Italian, Spanish, that world, if you will, versus the U.S., Australia, South Africa. Those are what we consider New World wines. So Old World tends to have this idea, and this isn't, again, all of these are just blanket statements. There's always probably one or two that are doing something different. Old World tends to have this idea that let each vintage be itself. We talked, and again, I don't know how many times we've talked about Lobo Hills now, but big fans of theirs. That's what they try to recreate here in the States. That's what we should be doing. Every year with climate, the soil content, the rainfall, it's going to produce different wine, and you're going to taste it. You should taste it in each vintage. In the U.S., what we tend to do, and I think more and more rapidly, are just letting this happen, or at least not doing this, but there tends to be an idea of like, I want my wine to be the same because it's what people expect. So there is a reason to do that. The term typicity, or just kind of like the same across the palate, that's not really what I'm looking for. I want to have some variation. I want 2015 vintage to be a stellar vintage, and then 2016 to be like, meh. Like, okay, I get the difference. That's tough. That's great as a consumer, and I get it as a winemaker why that's hard. But that's what low to no intervention does. It gives you what the vintage gives you in the glass.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, the clarification there, as I know that's sometimes a little bit confusing as we're talking through it. One of the other things that's interesting about this wine, and I would say many wines fall into this category, but especially I feel like with the French wines in particular, I've come to notice this, is that how much the flavor can kind of grow and develop as you progress, even through your first glass.
Yeah.
So like going from a rosé in segment one from the Loire into this Bordeaux Merlot forward, that's a big swing in your palate, right? And so what's just interesting is as we've kind of been talking through this and sipping on it, how much this really like smooths out in the palate and how much the flavor starts to change, and you really start to get into it. And so that's one of those things where I'm just like, hey, if at first sip when you're kind of moving into or starting to try, especially I think French wines, and sometimes that first sip is not really what the experience is going to be like after your fourth, fifth, eighth sip. As you get halfway through that glass, you realize, whoa, this is like super delicious.
100%. This is the gift and the curse of oxygen, right? And so when you have low to no intervention, realistically it's low. There has to be some intervention. But when you have minimal intervention in wines, it's going to have this journey as it's opening up, as oxygen is hitting the molecules in the wine. I mean, this is a living, breathing thing, right? So it's going to continue to change as oxygen, as air is getting in there and starting to brighten it up, lift it up. But also oxygen starts to mute some of the harshness, the sharpness. I think of wine as an image of an angular, kind of like an angular circle. So it's a circle with angles. And then as you drink it, as oxygen's invited or decanting, right, you're starting to mellow that out. You're softening the edges and you're getting to this bubble that's in your mouth that just goes pop and then it's smooth. That's the goal for every glass of wine. When you have intervention in your wine, when you have added chemicals to stabilize it, when you have very meticulous processes that kind of create the same thing, oxygen's just another element that just kind of is there. And so you don't get that dynamic flow through your wine, I think. So you're spot on.
Yeah, would you see that more in, say, I think about certain wines that are, considered to be high quality wines, but that are incredibly consistent. So I think about something like The Prisoner as an example, like an Oren Swift. Now Oren Swift doesn't do it anymore. He sold The Prisoner, but like I think about Prisoner and in some other California wines, and I don't want to pick on California, but that bottle basically always tastes like The Prisoner. And that I think is their goal. They want it to always be exactly as it was the last time that you had it.
Yeah. And I know nothing about their business practices or anything what's going on, but when I see that, I tend to think of that was a business decision, and they sell and it's a really good bottle of wine, and they sell a lot of it because they know what to expect. And I think there is some value in consistency. I think that it's a very tactical move in the wine production side of it. And it happens at the bottom level, the jug wine level, and it happens all through the spectrum.
Oh, right. Totally. Like a 14 hands or
a Gallo. Yeah. I mean, whatever those big jugs were, the Chiantis and the baskets,
Yes, totally.
And so it happens at all levels, but I think that's where there's a business decision being made versus a winemaking decision. And at least from the winemakers that I've talked to in France or Italy, they're making wine because that's the communal thing they do. That is their role in their community. That's the business that they've chosen to be in, but it's not a business. It's a familial thing. And that sounds very kind of like in a storybook or something. That's the way they think of it. And so here in the States, we get into wine because it's a business to make money. And I think there are some different decisions that are made to do that. And so I just look at whether it's here in the States or abroad, wine should be different year to year because no year back to back is the exact same necessarily. You get different yields, different amounts, different vineyard contracts, whatever it is. And that should be represented in the glass.
And if you haven't done it and you have the opportunity to, that's where it's really fun to do vintage like verticals, where you're tasting the same wine from the same producer of the different vintages. And this is really eye-opening, and it's a really fun thing to do. And one of the things that at one point we should do some kind of a fun event with one of our particularly, one of our favorite Washingtons or Frenches or whatever, to have a vertical night where we do some things like line them up and taste them, because they are all very different. And this then really brings this whole point home.
Totally.
Because sometimes, again, you might have had a wine from different vintages, but not right next to each other. And that's where you can really see, they can change so much from year to year, which is really, really cool.
And I guess the last thing I would say, like, we look at these things, and I'm particularly looking at this as I'm curating for the Fox and Bottle. But as you're going through your wine journey, drink what you like. Drink things that meet your palate for wherever you are on this journey. The only thing I would look at is just ensuring that whoever you are supporting with your dollars, because I really do think that every time you make a choice, like you're giving your money to somebody who's made wine, which is really cool. I would just look at their farming practices. I mean, I think that to me is the scariest part of all of this. If we're not being serious about the farming practices around wine, agriculture in general, we just won't have this product anymore. I mean, we're sub 50 years at current rates of having this product with us. And that's due to kind of like, I mean, if you look around the world, temperatures moving up, grapes being planted differently. It's just, it's a little bit nerve wracking to think that this industry could change drastically in a pretty short period of time if we're not hyper focused on keeping it here.
Dude, you're going to give me nightmares now.
No,
I already get wine anxiety.
I noodle on this all the time, and it scares me.
Yeah, now you're going to give me like severe wine anxiety because I already have it. Like, are we going to run out of wine? Now I'm going to be thinking about the global supply and the
This
change.
means you got to come to us and buy more now.
Exactly. Stockpile. Wine
now.
Fridges, stockpile. Speaking of stocking up on wine, as we wrap the episode, let's talk a little bit about our upcoming club release because we have a club release coming up really soon. It's a couple weeks out. By the time you're listening to this, probably 2 weeks out. And it's a great time to join the wine club because this next release is going to be really fun, super. And the wines are, we're not going to share all the wines today, but give us a little bit of just overview again of the wine club, of what people can expect, benefits, because the benefits are ridiculously great. I will say it's one of the absolute best wine clubs you can join, period. And certainly it's the best one in Edmonds.
Well, I appreciate that. I am ecstatic for this next release. So throughout this journey, we've been on for 3+ years now. I've had every which way to build a wine club. And so after the last couple wine clubs, I had some really cool discussions, meetings with importers and producers. And I just had this idea. I'm like, you know what? I started with an all French wine club. I'm going to go back to an all French wine club for May. Not permanently, obviously, but for May, I'm going all French, all in, back to basics, back to where I found my love and passion for wine. So I looked high and low. I've been up to the wire, picking wines and trading wines out when I'm finding different ones and better ones, and snuck in a few really nice gems in there. But yeah, we're going to go 100% French. Again, the wine club, sign up. We have about 2 weeks left. Sign up for May 1st to jump into this May wine club.
Is that the cutoff, May 1st?
Cutoff is May 1st.
Okay.
Yep. So May 1st cutoff. We have 4 clubs. 3 bottles, mixture. So reds and whites and rosés, bubbles. 3 bottle all red. 6 bottle mixture, which is going to give you, again, multiple reds, whites, rosés, and bubbles, or all 6 red. So those 4 clubs. The 3 bottle club, either one is $115 a quarter. The 6 bottle club is $225 a quarter. And with that, which I think the wine itself is worth all of that, but I'm a little biased. With the wine club, the perks are pretty spectacular. They're fun. You get huge discounts on merchandise and glass pour. So 20% off of merchandise and any glass pour. Plus, as a member, pop in the shop, you get a free 2-ounce pour of anything you want as you walk around to hang out just for being a club member. That's part of being the club. You get your same discounts on event rentals. We rent this space out all the time to people. So come in, get your rental for birthdays, graduations, anniversaries, whatever.
I had my birthday here, my 50th.
Yeah.
Here. And
that was so much fun.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I can't tell you how just grateful I was, but it was incredible. It was a super fun night, and the space is absolutely amazing for parties.
Yeah. So along with the discounts, free kind of tickets to new to the new events that we have. We have a ton of events coming up, classes coming up. Totally, and the parties are ridiculously fun. Yeah, yeah. So what we try to do is we want to make sure that we stick to our values in this space. So when you host an event with us, we're going to be your team right there with you. I'm going to personally curate all of your wine for that event. We're going to make sure that DJ, if you need one, is going to be here. Just the pod, iPod. That dates me, doesn't it? That dated me. I said iPod.
I wish we had iPods still sometimes.
I wish I might get an iPod. We'll get the playlist going. the events to us are the way we continue to build community after hours. And so the way I really view these events are it's an extension of what we do during the day, but after hours, and for whomever is able to come. And I think, I mean, your party was like 40, 50, 60 people. It's just like popping around. And honestly, it was like wide open. Like it felt so cool. Like you could have that many people in the space and just feel like you weren't touching elbows and needing to like bump into people.
It's great too, because the way the store's set up is that, again, there's all these great pockets for people to mingle and collab and congregate. And so it just has like a great flow to it.
Yep.
And so, yeah, the private events are amazing. Highly, highly recommend. And then the wine club release parties are also super awesome because of the community. So again, you come in, we taste all the wines, right, that we're going to have, and then you get your shipment, you get your particular collection, and usually we have some food, and it's really fun to like meet a bunch of people, a bunch of like-minded folk, and I just think it's awesome, man. It's just like such a great community vibe.
It's been one of the funnest things I've ever been a part of, and I feel so fortunate to have the community we have, and just to reiterate, this May wine release, the apéro we call it, a little French happy hour. We're going back to that same style. Everyone come. RSVP, we sent out an email today. RSVP to that just so we know who's coming. We make sure we got enough bottles to pop and be there. We have a massively awesome, and I'm not even going to be able to remember all of this, but the food lineup we have is going to be so much fun. I know there's like a chip shaped in a cup with ricotta and honey. There's some like really cool stuff that's happening for the food. So come in. It's on the house. It's part of being a member is that we're going to do that. And so it should be really fun.
Yeah, and that is going to be on the 8th.
May 8th. Yep.
Excellent.
So Friday, May 8th. It's about 2 weeks from now.
And your cutoff is the 1st.
Cutoff is the 1st to join. If you show up anytime after that and you want to join, I'm probably not going to turn you down, but feel free to
but don't risk it.
Don't miss it. Try to do it May 1st.
Do not miss out. Like get in there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this is fantastic. And I think on our next episode, with kind of talking about the wine club and the upcoming release, that should give you a little hint about what will be popping on next week's show. Is we'll probably give you a preview of a couple of the wines that we're going to have in our shipment.
Totally. I think I have a couple in mind already that I think will really spark some energy and some fun. And just showcase a little bit of like how I think a wine club should be curated. It shouldn't just be to get you a bottle of wine to put in your fridge. Like there's a story behind it. And I really love telling those stories. So every bottle we have is going to have a fun story, or at least a story from a family or something like that. So you'll have something to take away with you.
I love it. Brandon, as always, appreciate you. Appreciate the wine. We dropped some good knowledge today. This was a fun,
super cool.
Yeah, we wanted a little bit of a wine knowledge journey today, which was badass.
I loved it, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.